Ned, I just want to follow up on a couple of things that Kirby said. So he said the U.S. has evidence that Iranian personnel were on the ground in Crimea. That's a different level of military alliance between Russia and Iran. I'm just wondering where that leaves the nuclear talks that were stalling for some time. Is the United States, under these new circumstances, are you guys still pursuing to revive JCPOA with Iran?
Let me offer a couple of broad words on the trends that we're seeing, and then I'll come to your question. But the reports and the information that we are providing today that you've heard from Kirby, that you'll hear from us as well, speak to really the evolution of Russia's campaign in Ukraine that we've seen over the course since February 24th of this year. When President Putin first ordered his forces into Ukraine, Russia, I think it is fair to say, had grandiose objectives. Russia's objective was to wipe out the Ukrainian state. It was to eliminate the Ukrainian government, Ukrainian democracy, in many ways, Ukrainian identity itself. It is wrapped up in this warped and perverse notion that Ukraine does not have the right to exist as a country. And so we've seen those grandiose objectives really transform into, I think, what is better described as grotesque objectives. As Russia has recognized that it's not in a position to realize those grandiose ambitions, it's turned to the grotesque. It has gone from seeking to topple the state and to erase a people and a country to targeting and hitting power grids, electricity supplies, even more horrifically, neighborhoods, residential buildings, shopping malls, train stations, schools. In all of this, it's true that Russia has grown more desperate in recent months, and we've seen any number of indications of this desperation, the mass mobilization, the repression within Russia that has followed this mass mobilization, the attempts to annex by force, the imposition of martial law in the regions that President Putin sought to annex. Just think about that for a second. President Putin annexed these regions, claiming that there were individuals in these regions who so desperately sought refuge from the Ukrainian state that they wanted to join Mother Russia. And now Putin is, I think, proving the lie by declaring martial law in regions that he claimed just a couple weeks ago so desperately sought to join Russia. I think the fact is that even though Russia is desperate, doesn't make it any less dangerous in some ways. And we've seen that in Russia, perhaps out of desperation, turning to countries like Iran to provide the wares that it is unable to produce or to acquire through other means. Some of this is a reflection of the export controls, of the sanctions, of the economic measures that we've imposed on Russia. The fact is that they don't have the ability to organically produce, to import the key inputs that they need, and so they're turning to Iran. They're exploring arrangements with North Korea. And so as you heard from my colleague from the White House today, we can confirm that Russian military personnel based in Crimea have been piloting Iranian UAVs and using them to conduct kinetic strikes across Ukraine, including in strikes against Kyiv in recent days. We assess that Iranian military personnel were on the ground in Crimea and assisted Russia in these operations. Russia has received dozens of these UAVs so far and will likely continue to receive additional shipments in the future. In spite of all of this, we've seen Russia and Iran continue to lie, continue to claim that there's no there there. The Iranians continue to claim that they are not providing this material, and for indisputable proof to continue to emerge. And some of that proof was put on display before the UN Security Council yesterday.
Okay, but are you guys still pursuing a deal with Iran? Because that's what I asked. And also Kirby said like we're not focused on an Iranian nuclear deal right now. What does that mean?
Well, right now, the eyes of the world are where they should be. They are on the bravery.
No, but I mean, like when he says we, like I'm not sure he's talking about the eyes of the entire world, but mostly the eyes of the United States. So, like, are you guys still pursuing a deal with Iran or not? And what does the not focused mean?
So Humaira, at this point, of course, it's no secret that a deal does not appear imminent. A deal does not appear in the offing, at least not at the moment, because Iran's demands have consistently gone beyond the four corners of the JCPOA. We've heard nothing in recent weeks to suggest that Iran is prepared or preparing to change its approach. And so right now, the eyes of the world are where they should be.
Right. But under these new circumstances, is the draft that was put forward from your perspective, is that still on the table? If Iran were to take it tomorrow, are you guys still offering that?
That is a hypothetical that I don't think anyone expects to come to pass. The fact is that we continue, the president, let me back up, the president made a commitment that Iran will never acquire a nuclear weapon. We remain determined to uphold that commitment, to see to it that Iran never does acquire a nuclear weapon. Another proposition is that we continue to believe that diplomacy is the most effective, the most sustainable means by which to realize that commitment on a basis that is both permanent and verifiable. But the fact is that the JCPOA, the question is largely academic at the moment. And so right now we're focused, as is the rest of the world, on what is happening not in a foreign capital with negotiations, but right now in the absence, we are focused where the rest of the world is, on the bravery and the courage of the Iranian people. Gita.